I'm gonna miss this. I hope that I can appeal this somehow. There's something to say about this lifestyle that I don't think a lot of people understand. I say a lot in my videos that I want to live off grid, to be disconnected from being reliant on people. For some reason that's important to me, but this is not the major reason. It is just a serious reason. I don't want to be required to be hooked up to the electric, and whenever the electric company decides to shut us off, they will, they can. I want to be responsible for myself. Self-reliant as much as possible is what I try to say. With my own water, now I don't even need gasoline or propane to get my water. I can do it off the solar panels. Over the last 3.5 years, we've gotten better and better and better at this. Isn't this beautiful? We're coming into fall pretty soon. I think we got less than a month before the official fall season starts. And I don't get to come out here very often when it's weeded like this, when it's grown up. The mosquitoes are out and I don't feel like putting on bug spray. Well, today I decided to put on some bug spray and come out here. But one of the things about living here is just getting back to the primitive life, I guess. I really can't explain it. I can give you all the details to it. I know one of the things that is complained about a lot on my channel is my well. For about $5 and $15, for about $5 and 15 minutes, I could put a switch at the well house. So all I would have to do when I wanted to fill the IBC tank, come down, turn on the inverter, go up to the well house, turn on the switch, fill it up. I could even do that in the morning when I come down to let the chickens out. You know, turn on the inverter. That way I only can make one trip down the hill in the morning and one trip down the hill in the evening to take care of the chickens. And while I'm doing that, I can turn the inverter off and on. But if I need water throughout the day, I can just turn that switch. Now, one of the things is my well, its recovery rate is about 5 gallons per minute, but the pump can take 15 gallons a minute. So I can't run it for very long. I have to shut it off and then do the rest of my filling 20 minutes later. It's kind of how I have it timed out. So if Carolyn needs her sinks filled, what I do is I fill up my IBC tank first. I come back down the hill, shut off the well, come back up the hill, set the alarm for 20 minutes. When the alarm goes off, I go down the hill, fill up one of the sinks, maybe both of them depending on certain things. So I may go up and down the hill 2 or 3 more times. And people really think I need a switch so I don't have to run up and down the hill so much. But it's good exercise. And I say that a lot, like there's something special about the exercise, but there is. I notice when I walk up a hill, I don't waddle anymore. Usually when people walk up a hill, they have to get momentum with their body weight. I don't anymore. I just use my legs, the strength of my legs. I just, like I'm walking straight line on a flat surface. I don't waddle. My legs have the strength to pull me up that hill now. Of course, that has a lot to do with the carnivorous diet, but it also has a lot to do with me walking up and down that hill so many times a day. The other thing is what else do I have to do that's so important that I've got to have a switch there? Why can't I just walk up and down the hill? When I was a kid, my grandma and grandpa, when I was real young, they owned 5 acres. But then when I got a little older, I was in the teenage years, they got 20 more acres. And they built a log house in the mid-80s. Now, log house was built out of cedar trees. Yes, cedar trees. I've actually had subscribers argue with me, no, it couldn't have been cedar trees, it had to have been pine trees. The reason I know it's cedar trees is I helped cut them down. And if you ever cut down a cedar tree, you know you've cut down a cedar tree. And then a year later, I had to strip all that bark off those cedar trees. So it was cedar trees. Now, when I was really young, when they owned the 5 acres, there was a really good time there. I mean, it was out in the middle of nowhere. There was no kids around to hang out with. But on a fall day, oh my goodness, the sun would come up in the east, and I'd always sleep on the couch at Grandma's house. And the sun would come through the front door and just hit you in the eyes. And I'd always tell myself I wanted to get up and go outside to enjoy that. Now, my primitive young brain couldn't articulate all of this because I was able to figure out that, nah, I just want to go back to sleep. So I'd roll over and go back to sleep. But I really did want to go out there. And then when it would snow, well, this was when I was really young, younger than 10. Mom and Dad had a piece of property way back in the woods, away from the road, probably a quarter mile. You go across this back driveway. There was a cliff that overlooked the river. I lived by what's called a big river. And apparently someone before me had carved out a bench into the cliff. So what they did was they blew out the cliff so they could pave the road. And then someone carved out a stool there. So I would sit there and watch that river. And the fishermen would go by. I have this vivid memory of going back there after it snowed in the dark. Now, I'm sure I had a bedtime, so when I say dark, it was probably 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. So I went out there and I walked around in that snow, and it was just quiet. There was nothing. Here you can hear the crows in the background and different birds, but in the winter it was just nothing. And then, of course, you get older, and the fall time is probably the best time. I always hated fall growing up because I knew winter was coming, but it doesn't bother me anymore. I really enjoy the fall. And now, years later, of course, you go deer hunting in the fall, but it's late fall then. It's in November. The leaves are already changed and fallen off. And it's colder. I remember one time I went deer hunting, it was 17 degrees. That was a bit chilly. Just sitting there not moving, your fingers and toes are numb. I know a lot of people seem to think that the heat is an issue. I can't stand the heat, I can't stand mosquitoes, I can't stand so they want conveniences to hide from those things. But you do get used to it. I hated all those things too. Like I just said, I hated winter, but I don't mind winter now. When I get up in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I come down and let the chickens out. I check the batteries, see if they need a generator started. And there has been suggestions on how to keep from having to do that. But it's important to me for me to come down and take care of the chickens. One, just so I can check on the status of the chickens, make sure they're okay, made it through the night. The other night, or morning, I got up, came down, checked the chickens, and I noticed their food bowl had been knocked over. I fill it up every night. In the morning, I come down and let them out of the chicken coop. Well, it's still dark, and the food bowl had been knocked over, so I knew something had been in the chicken run. So if I let the door open, whatever that was could have gotten into the chicken coop and killed the chickens if it was a raccoon. For some reason, I'm guessing it was a groundhog. I don't know if groundhogs can climb, but I know we got a groundhog here and an armadillo. So I don't know if they can climb, but if they can, it might have been an armadillo or a groundhog. I've tried to catch it. It won't get in a trap. So my suspicions are it's not a raccoon or a possum. Well, groundhog isn't going to hurt the chickens, but I didn't know that. So it was easier for me to just leave that coop closed until daylight broke. So I came down about an hour later and I let them out. So you observe things. The holes in the ground right now in the yard are being overwhelming how many holes there are from an armadillo and a groundhog. I know my grandpa used to shoot the groundhogs, and I know why he did it. It was tearing up his yard. And you know, when you live in town, that's something to worry about. But here, I don't care. Let them have at it. Wildlife. A while back, there was a rabbit. Friendliest rabbit I ever seen. It was a wild rabbit. I could walk within 5 feet of it. It'd let me get close to it. I would go out of my way to make sure I didn't disturb it. If it was on my path, I would walk around it. It was kind of like being a pet around here. Well, then him or it and the cat started having cat and mouse games. And they were playing with each other. That rabbit would just sit there and torment that cat. The rabbit would get a little closer and the cat would get a little closer, and then the rabbit would turn around, run off, the cat would chase it and stop. So they became friends. I don't know if they were friends, but it sure did appear that way. But after a few days or weeks of that rabbit being around, I noticed it was gone. And it only took me 2 or 3 days to realize it. And there was a fox around here. You can hear a fox doing its barking. And so I'm sure a fox got it. And another thing is neat when you come down here in the morning when it's dark. We had deer all over the place last year. Not so many this year. You know, the economy has dropped, so everybody's hunting them. Illegally, but they're still hunting them. But when you come down here and you're just surrounded by deer eyes, and the reflection from the deer, their eyes, when you had that headlamp on. Now, in the wintertime, I don't come down with a headlamp. I enjoy the solitude. But in the summertime, I come down with a headlamp just in case there's snakes. Now, another thing that's really enjoyable is when you walk down here in the morning time and it just snowed. And that moon is kind of hidden behind clouds. It's a full moon. I'm sure you can picture it. Hidden behind clouds. So that means the moon is kind of lighting up the whole area because it's kind of reflecting and getting dispersed by the clouds. It's really beautiful. And twice now that's happened when I come down to let the chickens out. And I'm telling you, this little path I'm taking right now is the best path to take. 5 o'clock in the morning and just walk this path. It's dead quiet, no cars over there in the background. Of course, it just snowed, so nobody's driving around. The chickens are still asleep, so you're not hearing the rooster. Oh, it's just, you can hear the sparkling of the snow somehow or another. But people do want me to give this up. And they fight every day telling me of all the things I should do to make things more convenient for me. And the one that bothers me the most is that switch. You got to get a switch. You got to get a switch for that well pump. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. It's not like it's a big chore. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Oh, you're just being miserly. Get yourself a switch, for crying out loud. It's not that much money. In 15 minutes, it wouldn't take me any time to do. Probably wouldn't even take me 15 minutes. It's not that the chore is too hard to do or that I'm being lazy. It's quite the contrary. I'm intentionally causing myself to come down here and enjoy it. When I was a kid, Dad used to take me on a walk to a different river, the Mississippi River actually. We moved next to the Mississippi River. And you can walk along and you can watch the barges come up and down the river. It was quite the sight to see, but he only did it in the wintertime. I don't ever remember taking a walk in the summertime. It's interesting. I hated those walks. It was so cold. And being a teenager, you know, you had to have your hair perfect, so you couldn't put on a sock cap or put on a hoodie or anything. You'd mess up your hair. I mean, it was the 80s, you know, you had the spiked hair. But I hated those walks. Now I'm older, I miss those walks. They were some of the most intriguing times I can remember growing up. I'm not trying to recapture my past. I'm trying to live a life that I know I love. And putting a switch in to make it easier for me to get that water ruins the point. You know, people have these fantasies of what this is all supposed to be like. It's supposed to be 78 degrees year round. Living by a mountain with a mountainside stream. The deer coming up to you and eating out of your hand. It's not like that. It's better. But you got to find it. You can't hide it away behind switches and gadgets. Not only that, it's just one more thing that can break. I mean, imagine this. I wake up, take care of the chickens. A few hours later, I come down to get water. It doesn't work. Flip the switch, nothing. So now I got to isolate what's broke. Is it the well pump? Is it the inverter? Is it the wire? Is it the switch? It's just one more thing. It's tough enough trying to find problems in your system now. I don't need another problem. Keep it simple. And a lot of people say stupid. I'm stupid enough to keep it simple. I love this. And I think if people would just give it a chance, they would love it too. So my community is always suggesting better ways of doing things. In my community, whoever that is missing the point, and I don't understand how you're missing the point. It's the whole point of the channel, is to get back to basics. You get complaints about that rooster making noise all the time. Wow, I really enjoy that rooster. When we first got him, he didn't crow, so we went several months without him. Of course, we had a rooster broke his leg, and don't want to go through the whole story again. We've had several roosters, but we went a period without a rooster, and we got him. I was so glad to have him back. No, it's all part of the experience. And unless you do it all the way, you're missing the experience. So if you click this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about my airplane, my landing strip over there. So if I can inspire you to disconnect, truly disconnect, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.